Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Report. Listen, my name is Will Austin. The Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. I promised you guys that we would talk about ESG and we would talk about conscious capitalism and stuff because I didn't know enough. But there's a building at Florida State that used to be the library, and inscribed across the front it says, "Half of knowledge is knowing where to find it." And that's what we've done today. My friend, Vinny Tafuro, who I met when the book he wrote, Unlocking the Labor Cage, came out, which I thought was a super interesting look at GDP and how we measure things and how we measure work and the value of work. And I thought, dude, this it was so eye-opening to me. So when all this stuff about Larry Fink came out about how he was, quote, ashamed. He didn't really say that, but he was kind of embarrassed that the ESG discussion went where it did. And then he decided to use another term. And the term that he used was conscientious capitalism. And I thought, I don't think that's quite the right term. I'm going to ask my friend Vinny. So here we have my friend Vinny Tafuro of Unlocking Labor Cage and Conscious Capitalism, and a avid runner. He says he just ran downstairs to walk a mile and he came back. Vinny, thank you ever so much for spending some time with us this morning.
Thank you, Willie, for having me. Yeah, my running is slacked, but I appreciate the enthusiasm. My disappointing of my fans, I have to start running again, so it'll always be there.
I try to track you I try to track you. Oh, Vinny's running, cool.
Yep, you and the government
makes me feel healthier. To see you doing it. All right, so Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, over my shoulder here, said a couple of days ago that they were no longer going to use the term that has become sort of a political hot potato, ESG, that stands for environmental, social, and governmental, and governance.
Governance,
More.
Yeah.
And why that's important is that BlackRock is one of those firms that loans money and makes money happen for a large number of companies. It's so funny. I was reading a comment and somebody asked if they could get a list of companies that BlackRock was involved in so they could boycott them. And I just wrote, "Good luck." How many companies? Well, all of them. All of them, really.
Right.
All of them that matter. Now, I asked you a while ago about ESG, and you said, well, tell me what you've learned about ESG first before we go on to what really is your heart, is conscious capitalism. Tell us about ESG.
So ESG for me was just always a little bit too high level and too fluid in how it really evaluates things. It's all right. What's your environmental impact? Are you measuring your social impact and the social capital that you're building? And how is the governance within your company run? But it never looked at the types of companies that were being run and evaluated. And so that never sat well with me. I really prefer to look at, what the company itself is producing and doing as being a very integral part of whether or not it is a conscious company or a kind of, exploitative run of the mill, or really just is it a cutting edge contemporary company working on the future, or is it a, legacy company left over from the industrial age? And that's really what my focus has always been on, is the companies that are working towards the future and a positive future.
So we were talking just before we started recording. Is a different, and we both know this difference. Just recently, Elon Musk tweeted that it seemed kind of crazy that his company, Tesla, was not in the top 10 of an ESG score. But Philip Morris, the people who do Marlboro, and other cigarette, and other cigarette companies were in the top 10 in ESG scores. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Exactly. That is at the heart of it. Where I always kind of went, well, ESG, it's that which is measured improves, and so I was always supportive of any company measuring how it treats its employees and trying to do better. Great, but as a gold standard, it wasn't something I spent a lot of time on. I was always more interested in conscious capitalism or the certified B Corp movement, where the companies that were brought into that kind of organization and given that certification, there was an expectation that these companies, by the nature of the business they were doing, were already trying to provide joy or well-being or improvement in people's lives, as opposed to, like I said, selling cigarettes, or in the case of, I think Exxon's also an ESG company, selling fossil fuels. And even lobbying, the government to keep subsidizing, those industries. And I think that's really where my differentiation was.
Okay, so Larry Fink mentioned, and I don't know if he misspoke, or is this something new that we're going to deal with, or is he just or is he just repackaging the very same thing? I guess that's hard. I guess we'll find out as time goes on. Um, but a lot of people have never heard of conscious capitalism. Um, Tell people what that actually means in a nutshell. Okay, you got 15 seconds. Go. No.
So conscious capitalism is really, companies that look at all stakeholders, that go, if I treat my employees well, they become team members. If I treat my customers well, they'll advocate for my business. If I treat my vendors well, they become partners. And if I do that, my shareholders are going to perform well as well. And it's really how conscious capitalism works.
Well, that's in a nutshell.
I've gotten
Is
good at that. It's been 10 years.
yeah, you have. So is that possible to quantify with a number that you would use to decide if this company deserves capital or not?
So this is, well, are you talking about, so conscious capitalism is a little bit fluid in is a company conscious, and we've always looked at that the same way as, like, were you how conscious were you in your 20s compared to your 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s? And I would say that, in your 20s, your decision making might be a little bit different than when you were in your 40s. And so we look at consciousness for a corporation the same way, that over a period of time they can improve their level of consciousness, and how they engage with the world around them, which is why I really find the certified B Corp movement to be good, because they do give a rank. Out of a possible 200 points that a company can earn, if you earn 80 out of 200 points, you've reached the threshold of becoming a certified B Corp.
Mm-hmm.
From there, you don't stop. You can, every year, you can try to improve. But on the B Corp side, because there's a certification to it, there is a numeric quantification of everything that the company is doing, and that numeric quantification that B Lab puts out is different for every industry and changes over time as new reporting and tools and metrics and methodologies come out. So it's an ever changing and evolving structure as well.
All righty then. Um, this ESG thing has become an incredibly hot potato, because there are a lot of folks, especially who watch this podcast and listen to the podcast. Go. So why is XYZ company doing this thing? Why are they doing this? Why are they
Yeah.
going woke on us? Why are they doing all of this stuff? And my pat answer has been because they kind of have to. Because they're looking at funding, and part of funding, they've sort of taken on this idea that there are certain things they have to do to maintain their quote ESG score.
Yeah.
And is that am I naive? Am I not working that out correctly, or did I miss it?
No, you're absolutely right. I look at, there's Things is conscious capitalism, because too many people say conscientious capitalism and they're just kind of general words. They don't make good buzzwords, and it includes the word capitalism, so you can't really call it bad in that it doesn't make the same sound bite. Now, you've heard people call woke capitalism, but again, you've got to use the word woke. And so I think ESG and woke are four syllables, they're capital letters, real easy for political commentary and sound bites. Whereas certified benefit corporation or certified B Corp or benefit corporation just don't roll off the tongue quite as easily for 24-hour news networks. And conscientious capitalism, Larry Fink can't even pronounce it right and say conscious capitalism. And he may not have, because conscious capitalism is a internationally recognized organization and brand. So, it's kind of like calling it Kleenex. Kleenex has a trademark, but I can use a Puffs and call it a Kleenex. So I think you can't appropriate those words the same way you can woke, which was a urban and persons of color, Black community term, that kind of slipped into mainstream culture and has been capitalized on and kind of turned against itself and expanded.
Turned against itself. Boy, what a fantastic. That's why I love you, dude. What a great way to put it. It was cool, and then it just sort of started eating itself.
Yeah, I look at the same thing when you talk about the word privilege, and I've come from a very privileged background, and I think Americans are getting a wake up call to how privileged we are compared to Eastern Europeans. It's a real word, but
Even me too.
When it first came out, I remember telling my friend who was talking to me about it, I was like, it's kind of like the word epidermis in middle school. Your epidermis is showing, Willie.
I remember that. I remember that. Oh, goodness.
And you can make fun of something because they didn't know. And I think it was this academic term that is a very valid term and useful term, but it got weaponized at one point. And again, it's a three-syllable word, privileged, two-syllable word. So it doesn't.
How you
it's
say
still
it. Privileged.
Yeah, or privileged. Whereas
Privileged.
again, woke or ESG, a lot easier to keep weaponized in the media than privileged, conscious, or benefit. Which again, even you look at Marco Rubio had a open letter and I think a college talk that he gave on called "Common Good Capitalism." So there is kind of a bipartisan effort of your more centric Republicans and Democrats trying to find these ways of talking about business and differentiating when business is exploiting Americans compared to when it's not. And then there's the fringes on both sides weaponizing things.
Okay, so that's that. See, and that's exactly why I got a hold of you.
I appreciate that,
That's
Willie. Thank you.
Exactly why, because I think in order to move forward in our culture and in our community, we're going to have to be able to sit down like grown-ups,
Yeah.
and or in my neighborhood, grown-ass people, and be able to have a discussion without pulling out our buzzword, sharpening our buzzwords, and trying to kill each other with them.
Yeah.
Makes me a little crazy, actually.
So I appreciate your work, Willie, and the efforts you do to get things out there.
I am trying so hard, and I'm trying to be reasonable about it. It's like, can we just have a conversation? No,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
Stab with a buzzword.
Yep.
You're this. No, I'm not really. You don't know me. Anyway, Vinny, thank you ever so much for coming on for a little bit and explaining this for us. Again, like I said before, we're going to make this a segment on the morning report. It's Friday. You lived through the rest of the week and you didn't hurt anybody. Congratulations. Yes, and this will be a separate broadcast as well, because I think it's important, because people don't, again, they only know the buzzwords and they only know what they think they mean.
Yeah,
they don't know what they actually mean. They know what they think they mean or they feel they mean. So it's nice to figure out, oh, this is what we're actually talking about. Well, that doesn't sound so bad. Companies should take care of their employees, because good companies for years, no matter who were there, they've been mom and pop companies or whatever, always the restaurant that took care of the people who worked with them, treated them like family, went to their weddings, when their bar mitzvahs for their kids. They did all that stuff, made sure they made enough money, made sure they had enough food, whatever. The people that my son worked for during the pandemic came by the house and brought food. And they brought food to all their employees
Oh,
just
wow.
just to say, hey, listen, we know schools are closed, nobody's working. Hey, how about we do this? How about we come by and bring you a meal? See how y'all
Yeah.
see how everybody's doing. Well, good people have been doing this all along. That part is nothing new. So if you're a company of 50 people or 5,000 people, you should be able to find a way to do the same kind of thing.
Yeah. That
That,
is true. Well, you are
that doesn't seem hard.
speaking truth there.
The concept doesn't seem hard. Now, how it gets screwed up is the motivation why people do it. But that's in
Yeah,
everything, isn't it?
that is. Intention is important.
All right. Well, we got to get out of here and make room for somebody else. So, again, Vinny, thank you ever so much. Again, give everybody in your house that you care about a hug for me. I appreciate that greatly. I appreciate you. And I'll be looking forward to seeing you back on the run very soon. Again, so we got to get out of here and make room for somebody else. So until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.